Terry Heaton will talk with us about the worship of personal responsibility. The Senate's vote on health care reform, it's got more holes in it. You know, it's horrible. It's been beaten up and battered. It's like one of those old battleships. I was going to say than the Lusitania, but the Lusitania, there wasn't the number of shots it took, you know. But man, whew. So this is a big problem. Okay. And of course, Senator McCain in the surgery at exactly the moment they were hoping to get his support. Even more, you can feel the momentum on this thing. And people are like, you know something, this is just, it's not going to get done. They're not going to get it done. Then what? Well, you heard the president, that's it. The president was ready to move on. Businessmen, you know, businessmen are, move on. But what about the parking lot? I don't know. What did we do before we had one? Let's move on. You're not going to fix the park. Where are we all going to park? Where people parked for 50, 60 years before we built that parking lot. Oh, boy. Terry Heaton, our next guest, is a retired television news executive, news consultant, and the author of 7 books. His latest book is The Gospel of Self, How Jesus Joined the GOP. The memoir draws on his experience as an executive producer of the 700 Club in the 1980s. I'm sure I have seen much of his, plenty of his work. Wow. All right. I'm excited because the whole thing is hanging in the balance. America's identity, as expressed through its political institutions, is certainly murky at any given moment and frightening on other moments. Maybe not for everybody. Terry Heaton, welcome to the Ed Tyll Show on Starcom Radio Network. How are you today?
I am just great, and it's great to be here.
What a cornucopia. What a feast for us to use your great expertise. I can't tell you how valuable your opinions, insights are going to be on. No, I'm serious, man. You know, I came up in this industry on one side, the talk radio, from local to syndication, and then on the periphery, at television news, but on the periphery. You have really come from, not to use a cliche, but the belly of the beast. We can gain so much from your brave struggles on the front. So please, really, you can just tour guide us into how we've gotten here. There were a million signals, but maybe most importantly, how do we get out of what we're in right now?
Wow. Well, that's a good question. I think it has to come from the inside, which is one of the reasons that I'm writing so much these days. I've been a blogger for 20 years, and but now I've kind of suspended that while I'm doing some work for the Huffington Post in the wake of my book.
Oh, thank God! Way to go! Way to go!
I really think that. Yeah, I appreciate that. This quandary that we've gotten into. Wow. We never saw it coming back in the 80s. If you follow the movements of the evangelical church, over the last 50 years or so, there was a branch that developed through the counterculture movement known as the Jesus movement, and that revival, evolved in a lot of different directions. And, at the same time, technology was giving us the means to do mass marketing on a scale that we never knew before. 2 of the first 10 transponders on the first SATCOM R were owned by evangelical Christians.
There you go.
So that ought to tell you, the vision that it had. I mean, it's the ultimate pulpit in the sky, and the ultimate one-to-many communications medium, satellite. And so, Pat Robertson was one of those two people, and the 700 Club and CBN, which began in a TV station in Norfolk, Virginia, was suddenly a global powerhouse. And as I've written in the book, Pat Robertson's a politician first who happens to be a minister. That's just the only way to look at him. He's part of a aristocratic Virginia political family and conservative, and so all of his dreams and ambitions, evolved from that base, and that included his television program. So when I got there, we had this would be 1981. We had just gotten a research project from George Gallup about opinions of Christians in the United States, and it was really all the stereotypes that you can imagine: the ignorance, the Bible thumping, the overweight, the polyester wearing, rural, heavy emphasis on ignorance.
And these were, just to be clear, this is Gallup finding this among folk, and this is their opinion of Southern fundamentalist Christians. Well,
no, it's their opinion of Christians in general.
Christians in general. Okay. And, now, let me get right in and say, let me jump right in, because I want to be counted here, but I'm probably not going to be. All right. We were Roman Catholic, right? It's going to be hard for me to get in here, but I'm going to try. We were Roman Catholic, old school Latin. So I don't know what kind of crazy liberation theology they found down in South America, but it did not play in my neighborhood. I spoke Latin. We did Latin. We didn't do anything but whisper in guilt what we had done wrong. There was nothing else going on in our church besides we knew we could be better. We were in there every day, going to Mass, saying the rosary, knocking out 20, 30, 40 minutes of prayer in a moment, right? We're old school Catholics. So we liked it. We were very, Jesus movement. We think that, that was our job. We were supposed to emulate his behavior straight up. So do we count it in there, do you think?
You were anti-abortion, of course.
Of course. Oh, my God, yes. I'm still on it. I'm still on that issue.
There's the common ground, and, it's through that issue that you are linked.
Absolutely.
Inextricably
you got it.
The Christian right.
Yep. Absolutely. Proud to be, Pat Buchanan is my man. I'm watching him, I don't know, he's at 25th, the 30th book that he's written. And the other night he was on TV. He's got the thick glasses on. He's moving slow, but he was brilliant and insightful. And, he's been there the whole way. Well, anyway, let's come back to I love this because this is the concept I'm sure the kids can recognize the minute we say it. The worship of personal responsibility.
Right.
Right.
I believe that I certainly am responsible for me, and I would appreciate it if you would be responsible for you. But to swing the pendulum so far that becomes the issue we're discussing in the world of healthcare, for example, then it's elevated to something that we really have to talk about. And
right.
I wrote about media for 15 years before I finished this book, and so it is my hope that journalism certainly will pick up the ability to recognize spiritual concepts or religious dogma within the fine print, if you will, or underlying a lot of the what goes on in the news, because it's all there. You cannot escape the fact that the public square is not naked. It is clothed with the religious trappings of the people who live, around the public square. So I think that's lacking in our culture today, and it's one of the worst problems that we have.
All right, let me pop one in here.
We talk about the periphery.
Right. Now let me pop one in. I think a prime example, you see, we lock on this, and we'll see what happened, and you give me your thoughts. Back to the Republican nomination process. on a Sunday evening, one of these big debates, Trump said, I'm not going to let anybody die in the street out there. And he was not met with approval in that auditorium. They said, here he goes. He's going towards single payer. He's giving away the store. This is what and he thought that he was going to be the champion for saying that. He thought that was going to be one of the great uniting things of when there were 12 of them all going for the nomination. And he did catch it the next day for Trump shows liberal tendencies. You know, everybody who's sick in the street is now. And it was remarkable to me. That blew my mind. I would have been like him thinking they will love me as I guarantee the poor will not die in the street. And they did not reward him for that comment. What do you make of that snapshot? What does that tell us about where the GOP is and where health care's at and where the values are as to, you know, Trump's, he thought that was an easy layup and it got him
agree. Let's first agree that the brand Christianity has been hijacked by a very vocal, very right-wing fundamentalist group. And it's hard for a lot of people to admit that they are Christian because the automatic assumption is if I say that to you, you're going to think I'm one of them.
Right.
And that's a shame. It really is. But they have hijacked the brand. So, you know, in terms of reacting to current events, you know, and I. You know, personal responsibility is certainly a key finding for Christians with regards to their reaction to the culture. They believe that personal responsibility, and I'm talking about the belief that really has kind of gone to seed. The pendulum is so far out there that there's no room for anything else. It's all based upon, you know, my response to culture is that I'm responsible for my behavior, and which is fine until you start applying that to everybody else. So it's okay for me to say I'm responsible for me, but it's not okay for me to say you are responsible for you.
Oh, no, we're hurtling. You know this. Now, again, I don't want to interrupt you, but you know, and our listeners, I'm sure they're all saying the same thing now in the car. They're going, oh, my God, it's hurtling the other way. Every time we turn on the news, somebody has been identified as worthy of need and support, and conclusions are just certain, and we're doing this. You know, we'll just wait 6 months for the problems, the proof, the legitimacy, the efficiency, the et cetera, et cetera. We'll wait for that later. But today, there's always a new one. We're hurtling in that direction. I mean, really, give me your gut. Are we going to be able to hold on? I thought we would do better in slowing this momentum in my lifetime. I'm 61 now and feel, wow. You know, I was all upset about these things. The Blaine Amendment, I was 12. You're talking about abortion. I was out there for, you know, we were against the Blaine Amendment. It's New York State's abortion law that predated Roe versus Wade by some time. So, yeah, man. So that's what do you say to us right now? Are we on the slippery slope, and we may not get this back, or do you see a tugging point we can hold on and turn this boat? Because I think we're way astray. We're way off course.
Well, I agree, but I think I just finished a piece that'll be published this weekend in the Huffington Post. I think we need to be here. I think we need to be out on the edge because it's the only time that we'll actually talk about, you know, what's really going on.
Okay.
And so we need this. I don't, you know, it's not fun, and I'm not sure it's going to be fun, but it's the way life takes us through things.
Let me ask you a tough one.
That we can get on the other side.
Let me ask you a tough one. Give me some consensus here, okay? We got a horrible problem with death in the ghetto or the miniature suburban ghetto, where both sides. either victims are going down like flies, boom, 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 because they don't stop. They don't put their hands where they can see them. They don't follow the instruction in the moment. You frighten the police officer. They see everybody getting shot. They're not going to let you shoot them. They're going to go home. So accidentally here, we're losing life left and right. These kids don't know how to be pulled over by the cops without inciting violence, and the police are right to be, you never know with them. They could have an automatic weapon in the car. So what is leadership in faith? This is what I'm looking for. I mean, I'm joining in, and by example, we got to do more. Faith has got to lead us out of this. This can't be a war where the kids in the street think of themselves as the bad guys, the crooks. They glorify their lawlessness. They think it's Al Capone with the jewelry, and it's terrible, the lives lost. And these poor cops, they're getting paid, some of them $20,000, $21,000 a year to carry a gun. They have to be responsible for life and death in the spur of the moment with some lunatic they don't know. This is bad. So could faith lead us a little bit? Because I'm all in for what we can do, but beyond setting an example and not living this way ourselves.
Well, I have a lot of things that guide me as I look at the culture, and I have been looking at it for a long time. I really enjoy a quote from Henry Adams in The Education of Henry Adams, where he says that the way of nature is chaos. The dream of man is order. And I think that the pendulum of order has actually gone too far in our culture.
You're a what you are? You're a spiritual, philosophical badass, aren't you? That's right. Your MO. You slide in.
I don't fear.
Yeah. I know.
I don't fear chaos. I'm not afraid of it. It's
translation.
It's not the end of the world, and I think our desire to have order in everything, so that we know when to duck to protect our own ass. We can figure things out. I mean, I think that's just that's another core that's wrong here, and because we can't. Life is not that way. So I think if we were to just back off of that a little bit, we might be able to find our way out. And it's gonna have to come through a little chaos. And it's gonna, you got these two guys who are heads of the same. They're the captains of the identical ships, and they are setting out on a course for wherever. The first captain, he wants all the information he can get about the currents, the ocean, the waves, what influences the comings and goings of the weather patterns, and he just wants to know everything so he can plot a course through that. The other guy just points the ship in that direction and says, "Come on, everybody, let's go." And so, which one is right in their approach to steering that ship? Those are questions we don't talk about, and we need to. We just have to.
And can we know? Can we know? Is the world still random enough that even though you'd reason it all the way out and look at all the factors, you still go down in the drink, and the guy or the gal who flew by the seat of their pants somehow, by happenstance, luck, timing, some random factor, skirts disaster off on the other side, sailing into the blue. We've seen this, right?
Right.
Since the beginning of, you are contagious, man. I love having you on this show because I'm just getting revved up and we're out of time. So you got to do two things right now. Right now, you got to join me in plugging your book and letting people know how they can find you. Then let's spend 30 seconds making sure you're coming back on soon, because we've only scratched the surface. But first things first, the book is entitled The Gospel of Self, How Jesus Joined the GOP. Our guest is Terry Heaton, author of the book, available on Amazon. When you wrote this book, did you know right away this was going to jump out at people? Because it does. That's an amazing title.
Well, I kind of thought it did, or it would, and next time we talk, I'll tell you the story of how I was inspired to write it. So, because that takes a little time, but yes, I mean, I think it's very topical. It's very current, and that, I'm certainly stirring up people's thoughts, and that's what I had hoped I would do. I've spent my life challenging my assumptions, and I think that is a task that we all would do well to, practice. It's what guarantees you a seat at the table, of the discussion table. So if you're not willing to do that, I don't really care to talk to you. And you strike me as a man who very much has done that. So, I think it'll be great.
You know what? Honestly, I really do. I don't think our system could function without that happening. And what you said earlier about chaos, so powerful that I can't wait till the next time we chat. Terry, what a real pleasure having you on the show today has been. Terry Heaton, retired news executive, TV news executive, news consultant, the author of 7 books, including the latest, The Gospel of Self, How Jesus Joined the GOP. It's a memoir that draws on his experience as executive producer of the 700 Club in the 1980s up to and including Pat Robertson's run for president in 1988. Man, Terry, I have to say, not to overly flatter you, I'm just calling it like it is. America needs its wise men and wise women. And, we don't just need hurry up. We need to listen, digest, reflect, and use some of the wisdom that the Eastern cultures learned to revere many hundreds of years ago. We need to reconnect with that. Thank you for giving us that opportunity today, man.
It's my pleasure, sir.
You got it. I love guys like that. He's been right there where all the action was. 1988, running for president after Reagan? That is a snapshot of America, and he bears witness to it. Terry Heaton on the Ed Tyll Show. His latest book is The Gospel of Self, How Jesus Joined the GOP. Get it at Amazon.